All right. Welcome, CvCISO podcast listeners. Welcome to episode 49 of the CvCISO podcast. We don't have Meg with us today, so things might get a little weird.
Miss you, Meg.
We do miss you, Meg.
The adults are
Meg's
not attending.
Yeah, Meg's taking some time to no doubt. Things gonna get a little crazy up in her tonight. Is it today? Tonight. It's today.
So I wonder how many listeners out there, like when we say that, if they're like, "Ooh, baby, this is gonna be a hot one," or how many just like stop listening because
it's gonna get chaotic. I can't deal with the chaos. Well, I have ADHD, so yeah, we could just end up talking about energy drinks and the effect on the solar system.
Well, we got a hot topic. Like this one's a hot topic. People are going to want to listen.
All right. Yeah. I'll give you a little background. So this episode is, we rotate who gets to choose the topic for each episode. And this one I chose, and it came from a discussion that we had last week with the CvCISO local chapter in Minnesota. One of the people there asked me if I'd heard about the Mark Lanterman story. And for those of you who don't know who Mark Lanterman is, Mark Lanterman's was probably even more popular today, I suppose, but a very popular, well-respected forensic expert who, according to his own numbers, has testified in more than 2,000 cases over the years. He runs a company called Computer Forensic Services in Minnesota. And when she asked me the question, I was like, no, I don't. I try not to follow the news much because it's very bullshitty, excuse my language. But anyway, so I said, no, I didn't hear about it. And she said, okay, kind of thing. But it piqued my interest because I know Mark Lanterman. He and I, have been in intersecting circles. We haven't worked on anything directly together, which, I have my own opinions about him and I had my own opinions back then about him. So it was just kind of one of those respectful, we just probably won't get along kind of things. So, but it piqued my interest. So I started, taking a look into it and found, an article that Mark Lanterman has been accused of embellishing his credentials, and which on the surface, and this is back, going back to the 90s, right? He claimed that he had attended this school called Uppsala College out of New Jersey, which has since gone bankrupt. And that's being called into question. Now, it's not uncommon for us as security people to have our credentials called into question. Sometimes that's part of establishing credibility with people. Now, the good thing for me is I've never had to worry about this one because I went to school for geology. The hell's that going to do for me, right? I don't claim that
does everything for you.
Yeah, I don't claim that I've got...
laid the foundation, pun intended.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of us in this industry, especially the old timers, there weren't college degrees around cybersecurity or even computer science. So a lot of us don't have that stuff. And frankly, we don't need it either. But the problem here with Mark Lanterman is if this is true, well, he's been claiming this background with these credentials, and there's more, but I'm just kind of opening it up. He's claiming these credentials in court.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
On the stand, under oath, which I'm not a lawyer. Like, we should preface that none of us here are lawyers. So anything that comes off as legal advice, this is a disclaimer, by the way, any of this that comes off as legal advice is not credible legal advice. None of us are lawyers. We're not licensed to practice law in any state, any jurisdiction, anywhere. Maybe in my own home.
Fact check it with your AI legal chatbot.
No, don't do that either, man. They're not licensed either. Oh, Jordan's getting a phone call. So anyway, having said all that, embellishing your credentials, I think we all push the envelope a little bit, when we're applying for jobs, right? You're selling yourself. So you want to put in your resume, you want to make yourself look as good as possible. So,
my resume says I'm an avid golfer when really I'm a crappy golfer.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You can still be avid and be crappy.
Yeah. You could be really good at being crappy, but
you're right. People do, like, it's kind of natural to try to make yourself sound better. Right.
Mm-hmm.
When you start a lawn mowing business, you say it's a technical lawn care, whatever.
Right. We do that all the time in this industry, where we push the envelope, but we don't outright lie, or we shouldn't outright lie, right? Claim that you have something that you actually don't have. Now, in everyday work, this wouldn't be much of a problem. Like if he was working, for just companies, it wouldn't be sensational at all, right? If somebody claimed to have a college degree and didn't have a college degree, okay, big deal. But the problem here is in a court of law, under oath, that kind of in depositions claiming to have this, that's perjury, right? That's against the law. That also creates a crack for opposing counsel in these cases to poke holes in the case, right? So it could have some impact on the outcome of a legal proceeding. And when you're talking, as far as I know, I think Mark Lanterman has been an expert witness in 6 or 7 murder cases. So then, and I'm not the one who would argue whether or not this is material enough to warrant an appeal of a case or enough to overturn a case or whatever. But the fact that this leads to all these other things, to question these things, to have to consider all these things it's a huge waste of time. It's a huge waste of money. And there is the potential some way that this could turn the outcome of criminal cases, civil cases, all because somebody allegedly embellished. There's no, ironclad proof that he embellished his credentials. And to that end, Hennepin County, which is the biggest county in the state of Minnesota, which is the Minneapolis County and surrounding area, they were using Mark Lanterman a lot over the years for their cases. The attorney's office, they made an announcement, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that they're no longer going to be using Mark Lanterman. There was a press release, and that they've had to issue Brady letters. For people who don't know what Brady letters are, and I'm going to give you the layman's, because I'm not a lawyer, but what a Brady letter is when something changed. When a prosecutor, when one attorney, I think, finds out that something significant changed with a case that was tried previously, they issue a letter to all the other lawyers involved in that case that, hey, this thing happened and we have this legal obligation to inform you about it, so that they can consider whether they want to file those appeals. So that Brady letter is a really big deal. And then one other outcome, that's kind of happening is the FBI has been pulled into this. The FBI is currently investigating this as well. So it's a long story, and there's a lot more to it, but I figured I'd put it out here for us to talk about and see where it goes. Because I think its application to other people in this industry is, the importance of credibility, integrity in our profession. When you do push the envelope in making yourself look good, selling yourself to a hiring manager or to others, when we posture in this industry, it's really easy to go that extra step to where you're actually lying. And that's bullshit. Right. And we have to call bullshit when that happens. Whether I like Mark Lanterman or not, if in fact he did embellish his resume and outright lied about his credentials, well, then we have to call bullshit. Whether I like him or not, it's bullshit.
Right.
And it fucks everybody else.
Well, and that was the biggest thing I got when you said, hey, this is going to be the topic, was realizing how many different ways this sprawls out. Like you're describing, from the legal plus the ethical. And then when you go in and you look at it and you see some of his actions, whether he's guilty or not, we don't know, but he's doing a good job of not doing himself any favors. So then you bring in the court of public opinion. And and it just, the irony in all of it is, and let me bring that back up, but we're talking about his history, his job experience, all of this stuff within cyber and technology. And there's so many. Okay, so his company was Computer Forensic Services. Once they unleash people to do computer forensic services on this particular topic, it can get very interesting. So there's the college that went bankrupt, and there's no history or record, and he has no history or record of it. At some point, somebody's going to go to something simple like the Internet Archive and see what's up there.
What I'm curious about is, when you choose to go down the path of being an expert witness in court cases, and I think they said he's done like 2,000 of them, him or his company maybe.
So that's his claim. That hasn't been I think, established completely either.
Yeah, I think that's part of what falls in this gray area.
But when you go down the path of, hey, I'm going to be an expert witness, I'm going to make myself available to do this, and I want to do it. Like, what's the scrutiny that they put him through at that time? Like, first of all, the lawyer that even brought him into the case, did they not fact check him at that time? And then, of course, you have to put that in front of the judge and like kind of claim that he's an expert witness for him to do that. Like where was the fact checking back then if it was false? Like
Sure.
it shouldn't take much to just verify that he went to school.
No, that's a great question, because that was one of the things, I thought about too, is, you don't want this to happen again. So what's the fallout, and what should have been done to catch this, earlier on? Let's assume that, because you could have, like, in order for you to be an expert witness, you have to validate everything that's on your resume with evidence. Right. So if you're going to put on your resume that you have a college degree, regardless of how significant that might be, in order to dot your I's and cross your T's, which is what lawyers do. They do that all the time, right? Because they know that opposing counsel is trying to look for ways to poke holes in their case. So you would think that, all right, let's validate everything that's in this resume. So Mark Lanterman, if you say that you have a college degree, where's the diploma? Where's the college transcripts? If you say that you were employed at XYZ company for X number of years, where's the proof? Where's the validation? Where's the HR record? Where's the, you need to do that, especially in those environments, but then apply that to your own integrity, my own integrity, just out there on the streets, working, where I work and doing what I do. Everything in my background has to be validated. You have to believe it, right? What if I never worked? If I told you I, spent a number of years at Wells Fargo, I told you my last real job was, as the CISO of MGI Pharma, which was, a global pharmaceutical company. I told you that I started the CISSP mentor program and that it's always been free. And we've got over 100,000 students over the years. You make all these outrageous claims, call bullshit. Don't be afraid to call bullshit. Is any of it bullshit? I'll tell you it's not. Do I have evidence to support it? Yeah, but would you just take my word for it? Because I think there's so many places in our industry where people are too intimidated to question people that come off as authorities in this industry when it's bullshit. There's lots of places beyond just Mark Lanterman where you can look at somebody's background and compare their background with what they're saying or what they're writing in public, and it's obvious that they're full of shit. And maybe they're not. Well, then back it up. Make these claims, like the Target breach. I use that all the time, and nobody's ever called bullshit on that. Like, did you really serve on the special litigation committee on the Target breach? But I do have evidence of that. So if you did call bullshit, but nobody did, nobody's ever called bullshit on most of the things that, I've said that I've done in my past. So I wonder how much of it is that too. Like, you're not going to question Mark Lanterman because he's the established digital forensics expert and he uses a whole bunch of big words that I don't understand what they mean, and he sounds really smart. Well,
yeah, at a dinner party,
just because you're smart doesn't mean you're not a liar. Pathological liars are brilliant.
Sure.
Like you might not call him out at a dinner party, but like you would think the court system would. I was just looking at it because I this isn't me posturing, but every 2 years I am a adjunct faculty at Northwestern teaching their digital forensics, and I'm not an expert at digital forensics, but I do go through the curriculum, with them. But so I'm just thinking, I actually had the textbook here, and so it's like the expert testimony, like they call it the curriculum vitae, I think is what that's called, as like the resume, right? And then in your expert report, you also have to like detail how you gathered the evidence and stuff, and then the expert kind of gives their opinion on that. So so I'm just like, what, in those moments, like you think this is a more formal process in court. At a dinner party, he can say, I do all this, and everyone's like, oh, sweet, you got big words, and I believe you. But in court, there's right. Checks and balances.
Yeah. Well, it probably didn't happen initially. And then the second opportunity to be an expert witness rolls in. And when you got someone with this mindset going, well, this is what I've already done, and that can be validated. So you're building it ends up being lies agreed upon, which has a very fractured foundation. But you're absolutely right, Jordan. Let's just go back to here when this potentially could have made a left as opposed to going straight. Well,
the further you go down that path, the harder it is to get back from that path. Let's assume, based on what you read and what's been made available, which is, a number of court documents, there's this guy his name is Sean Harrington. He's an attorney out of Wisconsin, who is also, claims to be a forensic expert, whatever. And he's really been the one that's, I think, been just really on top of it. I mean, in terms of like just going after Mark Lanterman. And he has been for a while. And so, you have to put these things into context. So you're thinking, well, maybe this guy is just libelous. You know what I mean? He's just claiming a whole bunch of stuff that's not actually true because he just doesn't like Mark Lanterman or because they're competitors or whatever. But then he produces evidence, court testimony, documentation that shows, the discussions that are taking place. And it's like, man, I'm reserving. There's never going to be like conclusive proof here. It's all going to be circumstantial, right? But all the circumstantial evidence points to the fact, from what I've seen, points to the fact that Mark Lanterman lied. And I don't say that lightly. And that's my opinion, by the way, too. It's not factual, because that's the thing with circumstantial evidence. It's not factual. You have to draw an opinion from it. Mm-hmm. And so he claims that he went to college, got his bachelor's degree and master's degree in computer science from a place called Uppsala College in New Jersey. Now, Uppsala College went bankrupt. I don't remember the exact year, but 95, maybe, something like that. And they went bankrupt. And when they went bankrupt, you got to do something with the college records, right? All these transcripts and things like that. So from what I understand, those were distributed to two other colleges that are kind of the custodians of those records. And so he claims that he was there from 83, 89, right? Okay, legit. Now, if I were to lie about my own credentials in this way, this is exactly what I would do. I would do the exact same thing that Mark Lanterman is accused of doing, meaning I would choose a college that's no longer around, that you would have trouble validating what I'm telling you. I would choose a college and I would just say that and think, well, who's going to give a shit? I mean, what most people would do in terms of verifying this would be look it up. They're bankrupt. Okay. There's nobody call. We'll just have to take his word for it. But then it goes on. He doesn't have a copy of his diploma. I mean, if you're going to spend 6 years going to get a college degree, I mean, I look behind you right now, Dave, you've got things hanging up on the wall that are certificates or diplomas of accomplishments that you've had over the years. Those are big deals, right? If I'm going to spend that kind of money and that amount of time on a damn degree, hell yeah, I want evidence of this thing. So, you know what I mean? I'm proud of it. There's nothing.
Yeah, well, my grandpa had said, if you never have to remember what you said if you always tell the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it, right? I mean, so he's been challenged, and this has been asked in court, right? So this is public record. He's been asked to produce his diploma. He doesn't have his diploma. When asked, where is your diploma? He says, I don't know. So then, and he claims that he went when he was going to college there, that he lived with his grandparents, right? So you have no evidence of this diploma. There's no transcripts anywhere. When you look at the graduation, the graduation ceremony and the graduation records, nothing there. Name not mentioned there. There were yearbooks and other documentation and things from Uppsala College in those years. Nothing. Then he was asked, well, can you name any students you went to school with? Do you have any friends? 6 years in college and you have nobody? You can't remember a single person? That was the answer. And he said, well, because, I'm not a social person and I lived with my grandparents.
I don't mean to laugh. I mean, it's not really a funny situation. It's just crazy.
Well, this is just the circumstantial evidence. It's like I don't know. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, maybe, but
I can believe like a 25-year-old doesn't know where his diploma is. Maybe his mom has it packed up away, but not someone who's an expert witness and is banking on their credentials to say, I don't know where my diploma is.
When he claims that it might have been in his grandparents' house and that when they moved that they threw it away. That's what he said about that.
Well, even if we sit here, the three of us, and just go, okay, what is it? Let's start trying to educate ourselves on the topic. We start looking at this. And even if we go in with the mindset of, hey, I want to be an advocate for Mark. And as you read these things and you see what he said and the actions that have been taken, he's not doing himself any favors. It's kind of like there was a 3-foot grave and he said, hang on, we should make that 6 foot. It'll be a more effective grave.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you try to put yourself into that same situation. Like if I was in that situation, I would be more like, yeah, I don't have them. They were lost or stolen or whatever. Can you help me find them? I mean, who have you guys been talking to? Who have you guys been calling? Because I can't seem to find the record, and I would love to have the record so I could put this to rest. I could put this to bed. Instead, it's just doubling down on the almost like obstruction, not answering questions, not giving information on what might be true. So you're left with and that's, I think, what draws this conclusion in my mind, and again, opinion, that he did embellish this. Because if I were to put myself in the same shoes, I don't see it. I can't see it any other way right now, pending something else happening, something else occurring.
Yeah, he's given them zero, not even a crumb of here, go ask our neighbor, or something. I mean, anything. Remember one thing from college, one thing.
Yeah. And
teacher. Do you know a teacher? What teacher did you have? Come on. Teacher, professor, whatever.
Yeah. It's
you name the mascot. Anything.
Yeah.
Well, you're an expert in forensics. Well, it's, Mark, you're an expert in forensics. You should be able to come up with something or have the wherewithal of showing your best efforts in trying to do it. But then when you look at the transcript, when he was under deposition, it was just more contentious. And like you said,
and you know how this works. I mean, you're talking, and you should know how cybersecurity works. You should know how OSINT works. You should know how these, you can follow rabbit trails and you can follow, these crumbs and draw your own conclusions. Everything, they say that everything, on the internet is permanent, right? It's just, where is it? Can you find it? And I think of this, so I try to apply this to myself too. Okay, I remember growing up when I would lie and then I'd be called to account about the lie and I would continue to perpetuate the lie and perpetuate the lie and perpetuate the lie till it got to a point where I was left with no choice but to fess up. And when you look back on it, had I fessed up, 2 lies in, it would have been so much less damaging than where it's at now. And because where it's at now for Mark, is essentially, it seems like lawyers won't take him on any case anymore right now, probably, if ever. And he's had to step down from his business, Computer Forensic Sciences, and hand it down to his son. Now, in his public statement there, he said, well, I was always planning to do that anyway. So, thanks for just, making it happen sooner for me. It's like
accelerated the tempo of those decisions.
So let's assume that this is a lie and that he's continued to perpetuate this lie. I sort of feel sorry for him if that's true, because what you've spent all your career building, this company, this legacy has all now been called into question and could all potentially just come crumbling down. And you walk out of the game as a fraud, which is sad.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Evan, when you kind of say that first fib and it leads to the second and the third fib, at some point now the content of your character becomes the topic as much as what was the lie, kind of a thing. And then if you got someone who lies and never backs down and within themselves thinks that they are right in all of this, that's right on the edge of being a psychopath.
Right. And you're absolutely right, Evan. If it is a lie, the sooner you get out of it, you can at least salvage something. You at least can be someone who is willing to face the music and just come clean. But the more you drill and the longer it plays out, the less that opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. It just gets deeper and deeper. So, part of me also hopes and wishes that this isn't true, that somehow they will find a transcript. They will find a diploma. They will find a record to substantiate what Mark is claiming. And then he can go, gotcha. You know what I mean? I would love that, because then, we still have the great discussion about it, because we know that other people certainly do, elevate themselves beyond what they really are, often. So I think it's a good case study to talk about, and I kind of hope that, because I like good outcomes. I'd hate to see, over all these years. I mean, I assume Mark Lanterman was doing a service, thinking he was doing good work, helping people, but still that little seed that you planted, if that is in fact that way, that weed is now taken over the entire crop, man.
Yeah. And now, like you were saying, if the FBI is involved, something tells me they'll be able to find transcripts from the school and who professors were at that time and things along those lines.
I mean, at what point, though, if this is carrying out, like drawn out so much, at what point you talk about the idea of public opinion, like at what point does it take so long for them to uncover that people start thinking that those were fabricated even? Maybe there's political things involved with cases that could go sideways if it comes out that he's lying. And now there's a conspiracy theory about, they produced the transcript. Here it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what the ultimate outcome will be. I think, what the cat's already out of the bag, whether it's a real cat or not. Eventually we'll find out. That's the thing. We were always taught, the truth always comes out. And so to see how this, again, I'm assuming it's a lie, to see how this has come back to haunt him all these years later and ruin what he's spent so many years building. I think it's a sad story. So the takeaways for us, as information security professionals, as VCISOs, as CvCISOs, as, whatever part of the life you're in, don't fall for the urge to claim to be something more than you are. It will come out. And it's intimidating in this industry, right? Because let's say I'm a VCISO and I've only got like 2 years experience. I don't have a college degree, but I'm smart as hell and I'm in the game for the right reasons and I'm good at what I do and I can serve this customer better than anybody else. And then comes along a person who's got 10 years experience and all these credentials and a college degree, and you're going up against that person, right? For this business, for this contract, how do you level that playing field? How do you make yourself the person that's going to get chosen over this other person? It's a tough game to play, man. But eventually, if you go the route of claiming to be somebody you're not, claiming that you have experience that you don't, claiming that you have a college degree in something that you don't have a college degree in, anything, if you're claiming anything that's a lie, it's going to get you. It better get you. I hope it gets you, because that's the point. Shitty choices have consequences.
And reputation is everything.
Yeah.
And you can see it playing out like the domino effect. It's not just reputation serves you well to, gain trust in your current situation, but when your reputation goes, the dominoes fall. And this is going to be one of them where like the consequences of those dominoes are huge.
Yeah. And you're going to be in a more negative position than when you started. It's going to take you below sea level. Hey, one thing I will throw out there, because I'm a firm believer that Mark Lanterman follows this podcast. So this can be an open opportunity for him to join us on a future session, and we can talk through it and give him that opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And that same thing holds for anybody. Anybody who has something that they disagree with, that they want to defend, they want to call bullshit, or maybe we got things wrong, right? We're trying, for me, and I think all of us, we're trying as hard as we can to go into this with an open mind. I've said numerous times that this is my opinion. It's based on what I see. I don't see everything. Obviously, there's always two sides of the story. When possible, give people the benefit of the doubt, and let them give them the opportunity to speak for themselves. I mean, that's what due process is too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're kind of riffing on it, but we're not here to make decisions. We're just kind of learning off the experiences we run into and try and pull the lessons learned we can from those to the best of our ability.
That interview that you shared with us, Evan, because that's the thing that's just, when you read through it, it just sounds so silly. Like, come on, man, give the dog a bone a little bit. Like, but did you say that Sean Harrington was questioning him? Like, that was Sean Harrington questioning him? No, it wasn't. He just shared it.
He just shared it, right? That particular That was an attorney from Perkins Coie, and it was the case of Alliance Laundry Systems LLC versus Trudy Adams, John Clay Adams, and Autarkic Holdings. But it's a case that was filed on March 14th of this year in Northern District Court of Florida, Pensacola. So that's just a court transcript of,
Yeah.
and so it's a verbatim capture of, what transpired in that testimony. So so let's put the whole Mark thing aside for now. Regardless, what can we learn? What can I learn? What can you learn? What can the listeners learn from this so that we don't find ourselves in a similar situation? And, I already mentioned, don't say stuff that isn't true, and be prepared to defend it, right? So if I claim that I've done this and I've done that, could I defend it?
Mhm.
That's important for us to protect our integrity. The thing that we invested so much time, so much energy into, our reputation, protect our integrity, protect our credibility. So nobody's going to protect you better than you. So number one, and this is our number one core value at FR Secure, we don't lie.
Right.
There's zero tolerance for that. There's lies of commission and there's lies of omission. And people need to understand that. And I've repeated this so many times. The lie of commission is claiming something as true, but it's not true, right? So it's outwardly stating something that's false knowingly. That's a lie. That's a lie of commission. The lie of omission is when I don't tell you something that I should have told you, knowing that you're operating under this falsehood, right? So don't lie. There's no better way to destroy your credibility, destroy your trust, destroy your integrity than lying.
I think it's really important to believe that the truth matters more than what the lie would get you. You lie and someone, so let's say you tell, like Evan, you brought up your college degree. But if you tell the truth and you say, my college degree is in geology.
Actually, I didn't even graduate.
Yeah. What's that?
I didn't even graduate.
So
that was
right.
my major.
So you say that, and people might scrutinize it. So you might come into question someone if you're on a witness on the stand.
By the way, that right there, if I wouldn't have told you that would have been a lie of omission. Because you just said college degree. I know that ain't true. And if I would have let you continue to operate under that, that's just an example, live example of a lie of omission that we didn't let happen. Sorry, Jordan.
Someone might be tempted because they're thinking, well, if I say that I didn't graduate, they're going to then scrutinize me saying, well, how would you consider yourself an expert if you can't even graduate college? And they're maybe scared of that scrutiny when really you can prepare yourself for that scrutiny. Like telling the truth matters more than what lying about it would get you. So and
if you think that's going to be a barrier to entry, rather than lie about it, then use that as motivation to actually do it. Yeah. And so if having a college degree for whatever field of thing I'm going to be doing is really important to this career path I've chosen, rather than lie about it, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take shortcuts. The shortcuts are going to come and sting you in the ass too.
Yeah.
I learned that from my father, my Marine Corps father. You never take shortcuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think like one of the lessons learned for me on this is we're applying it to what we do professionally. But this is applicable to us as humans. All of these things about being transparent, being honest, our credibility, our reputation, thinking about how that plays into our families and our other friends and other stuff within the community above and beyond just when we say, okay, I'm going to put on my cyber hat and go to work today. And my day's over at 5. This is just more of a life choice or personal decision.
It's so important to be genuine, to be who you really are. There's a reason why, and this is my opinion again, there's a reason why, there's so much struggle in our industry with imposter syndrome. And, because you hear it talked about all the time, and it's like, why is that? Well, probably because many of us in this industry are imposters. We're living as if we're somebody. We're living as if of somebody who maybe we aspire to be, or maybe we want to be, but we're not that person. So you start losing your genuineness. I think that's one potential cause of imposter syndrome. I think another one is when you compare yourself to others, because there's a lot of pressure in this industry to be like, I mentioned when you're in competition with somebody else, right? It's like, well, look at them. They've got all this. They've got all these credentials. I don't have any of that stuff. And so you start to get this sort of imposter syndrome. And one of my quotes that I really liked, and I think it came from, I don't remember who it came from, but it's, winners focus on winning, losers focus on winners. So stop focusing on other people. Stop trying to be somebody else. Stop thinking that you're in competition with anybody else. The only person you're in competition with is yourself.
Right.
That's who you're competing against.
Yeah,
Go ahead, man.
I just, I'm sorry if you wanted to finish your point. I didn't know if you were. But
no, I could talk all day, man. I just talk over people all the time.
Well, I was just thinking that there's got to be some mental health, some negative mental health things that happen when your success is built on a lie. It's like, it, you might feel good. Like if you have a trophy sitting here and that it's built on lies, you got it for some reason and you lied to get it, you might have some sort of feeling of accomplishment. But man, there's got to be a mental health thing that is going to affect you when you're looking at this trophy and it's a lie.
Right. Whereas when you're competing against yourself and you're pushing yourself and you're not comparing yourself with others, the things you accomplish become the best product that you're capable of creating, and you feel pride in those things.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for. And it's like a mental trophy. Like I'm learning piano. I'm not comparing myself with Elton John. Are you kidding me? You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm trying to be the best piano player I can be at the moment, trying to learn these little things and make these little accomplishments. Then every day I walk away like, all right, I finally nailed that damn chord that was driving me fucking crazy. You know what I mean? That's the accomplishment. That's my little trophy for the day. And those little trophies then add up to bigger trophies, but you don't take shortcuts. And I think the same thing happens in this industry. There's this, everybody wants to be a damn pen tester. Everybody wants to be a damn expert in this industry. Everybody wants to be the best information security person that ever existed. The lie is that's never going to happen. You're never going to be the best security person. You're never going to be the best CEO. You're never going to be the best father. You're never going to be the best piano player. The only thing you're going to be the best at is you. That's it. You're guaranteed to be the best you. So why the fuck would I focus on that other shit? I'm going to be the best me. And that same thing plays into this whole credentials thing. Just focus on being the best you can be and take the path that's set out for you. Don't compare yourself with other people. You always want to push yourself, right, to this point of uncomfortableness, but I would do so in truth. I would never lie about it. I don't take on additional tasks claiming that I can actually do that task. I'll be honest. I've never done this before, but I'm going to try it. And people will be like, okay, go for it. Because you need three things to be great, I think, in this industry. Number one is intangibles. Those are things I can't teach you. It's trust, it's integrity, it's dependability, it's that kind of thing, the thing that I've been preaching right now. The second thing is education. You do need education. But you can get it from college, you can get it from Udemy, you can get it from the CvCISO course. I mean, there's lots of places to get education. The third thing, and this is the one that you can't rush, and this is the one that everybody seems to want to shortcut, is experience. That just takes time. Yeah. You gotta start somewhere. I started on a help desk cleaning boot sector viruses off of Windows 3 machines. It's not like you went from that to, the founder of CEO and Security Studio and all this other shit overnight, man. No, that was a long ass path. And all along the way, I wasn't focusing on anybody else. I was focusing on me, trying to be the best me I can be. There's plenty of work to do right there. Why the fuck am I working on the other shit? Sorry, man, I preached a little bit there, but I think that's the thing I take away from this I think we should all take away from this as a motivation. What am I going to use in this story to make my life better, to make my job better, to make my marriage better, any part of your life? Number one, tell the truth. If you're doing some shit, now, this is the way I feel anyway. Like if I'm doing some shit behind my wife's back, am I that stupid to think she ain't going to find out about that? I've told enough lies over the past. That's the reason why the number one core value at FR Secures, we don't lie. Because the longer that lie goes on, the longer it perpetuates, man. The longer it destroys things. So it's the same. I'm the same person in my marriage as I am at work. I do different things, but it's the same person.
Right.
I got to be a man of integrity in both places.
The same moral compass, wherever you are.
I think the other encouragement is start now. Like if you've messed up, like we all have, and we've all told lies.
Amen.
And you might be thinking, oh man, I already ruined my reputation. It might take some time to earn it back, but start now.
Well, and even in that, I mean, what a great, let's say you have been lying for years and you decide, well, I need to come clean, right? I've seen I can see how this is going to destroy things or whatever. And so you come clean. Yes, it's going to cause damage. But now think about the testimony you're going to have and the example you're going to set for other people. So you can always turn these things into like a real positive experience. Even let's assume, again, and key word is assume. I don't know if Mark Lanterman is guilty of this, but let's assume that he is guilty of this. And let's say he decided, all right, guys, sorry, I lied, and do so, ask for that forgiveness truthfully, then go out and write books about the importance of not following the path that he followed, and start setting the example for other people. And I mean, you could use this really big thing that seems so bad. You can totally twist this around to something good.
That would be a
That same
bestseller.
thing serves for everybody. All right. Well, that's it, man. I preached a little bit, but I guess it was my topic. And I'm really passionate about this because, like you said, Jordan, I've lied. I've lied to myself. I've lied to, people around me. So the reason why, I'm not like this holier than thou person, I've made so many mistakes, and maybe we'll talk about that someday. The times I've been to jail, the times I've drove drunk, there's plenty of crap there to talk about, but that doesn't define me. And what defines me is overcoming those things, working on being the better me through those things, and then sharing those things to help other people. I will still make mistakes. I'll make mistakes today, but it's how you approach those mistakes. And that's all wisdom stuff, right? And you can't get wisdom any other way. Two ways you can get wisdom. One is through experience with pain. Pain, you don't get wisdom from just experience. You get wisdom from experience with pain. And the other way you get experience is by taking it from somebody else. So somebody else shares it with you and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So if you ain't willing to do the pain and you ain't willing to listen, well, then you ain't going to get no wisdom, and you might end up assuming again that Lanterman's lying. You might end up like that.
Yeah. No, dude, solid.
So what else you guys got to add?
Yeah,
We got to close this thing. I love you guys. You guys bring out the best in me. Every time I get to talk to people that I really admire and people that are honest, people that I know that are in this game for the right reasons. You guys are the ones that motivate me to get up in the morning and to do this shit. And you guys are the ones that make us passionate. That's why I preach like I do. And I don't even give a shit if you wanted to say anything or not, because I still got shit to say.
That's the most honest thing you've ever said.
The truth.
Hashtag the truth.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
No, biggest thing for me is, like I said, this is, if you strip away everything, we're really talking about how we conduct ourselves as people. And measuring ourselves against ourselves, and just telling the truth isn't complicated. It's a pretty simple thing. And right. It's other parts of our psyche that may steer us in that direction. But I think that's part of what we're intended to learn with our time on this planet. And taking that and like you said, Evan, it's a lesson for each of us as individuals to learn, but to be there for others to help them when we can.
Absolutely true. All right. Well, good episode, guys. Thanks for letting me rant. This was episode 49, I think. And we didn't
get off the rails too much.
No, Meg would be proud of us. I can't wait for her to listen to this episode.
Yeah. And this episode's dedicated to Meg because she couldn't be here with us.
Dedicate to Meg. Keep Meg in your prayers. She'll be back.
Tell the truth.